but I used Photoshop Generative Fill
Yes.
to remove the photographer.
You think that's the great shot? Just kidding, it's not a shot. I'm kind of contradicting myself.
This is what it looks like. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of TTC TV. This is a YouTube show designed to help you dominate content creation, videography, photography, social media, everything, while we do so also. Darren, double digits. A bit of a round of applause from the audience today.
I'll do it for you. It's a great milestone, and I was wondering why you had so much juice with that intro. It's number 10, that's why.
We're the big time now, but it's cool. We've come... I was going to say we've come far, but it's 10 episodes in. So you were telling me just before we started recording to practice what we preach and understand that there'll be plenty more of this before we start getting better and better, which we have done already.
Well, we are already. I was going to say we're 10 weeks in, but I don't think we've gone exactly one episode per week, but 10 episodes. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to be here. How are you? How was your week?
My week was good. How was your week?
Can't remember.
No. Well, you know, like you get the small talk in the office all the time, and you just like completely throw people off by never elaborating.
It's actually
good. Thanks.
It's been 2 weeks
since we've caught up.
Yeah, give me a highlight from your 2 weeks.
Michael and I don't talk as well in between these episodes, so you're getting fresh things. Highlight of my 2 weeks.
Well, since we've spoken for 2 weeks, because as you just mentioned, we don't discuss unless we're recording because it's all about content.
That's a tough one.
I'll give you mine. Random schnitz. Shoot for schnitz? Schnitz shoot. Don't say that 10 times. But no, I had a job handballed onto me from another videography friend, which is great because in the freelance world, I've found and will continue to find that networking isn't just important for businesses and brands you want to work with. It's good to meet other people because perfect example of a fun shoot to come from meeting an old friend. Touch base with him, have a coffee, and then he could make a shoot he had with Schnitz, and there I was. And it's funny, like it's another nod to where a camera can take you. Like just filming a little promo event for a new Christmas burger from Schnitz.
Christmas burger?
Yeah.
Have you got some sort of like...
It's public now.
Oh, okay. I was going to say like NDA or whatever that you had to sign that you're not allowed to talk about Christmas burger. But I'll tell you what, if I ever had a food sponsor, Schnitz would be like top of the top because... Superb, but what the hell is in a Christmas burger?
Well...
Here's a test.
No, it's that, so I think the main thing was the cinnamon, like the cinnamon cinnamon flavouring and some sort of jam flavouring on the chicken.
Jesus,
I'm not going to get this right, but it's something to do with like, you know when you bite into... Is it cinnamon that makes that Christmassy sort of taste, that tang? I think it is cinnamon.
Yeah, you're probably right, but it sounds like...
Cinnamon and jam was like... sort of around the chicken and cheese in the bun. It was really nice, but it just had that subtle difference.
Oh, you've tasted it?
Yeah, I had it for lunch. That shoot, they provided it for me.
Okay, well, it sounded like a sweet tooth type of thing. I don't know. I thought they might ruin that, but I'll have to try it.
Yeah, have a go. It's not a sponsor yet, but if we keep plugging it, maybe it will be.
I love it.
Have you thought about it one highlight before we go into what we're going to talk about this episode?
You know, like weeks just go into a blur. I'm just so busy. No, actually, weeks do go into a blur, but I got back into swimming. I've picked up the random hobby of swimming. Yeah, it just is a wholesome activity that Jess and my wife and me do.
And my wife.
So that made it sound like Jess and my wife.
Who is the other?
Jess, my my wife, and I do. So that's my highlight.
You have been a bit of a fish lately, so you've been doing well. But what are we talking about on this episode today for the viewers?
Let's plug it. I'm talking about quality over quantity, or quantity over quality.
The age-old debate. I actually couldn't get sick of this conversation. You laughed at me when we were talking about this in the run sheet, but I enjoy revisiting this conversation because I think my view changes every time.
Well, look, you say you could get sick of it. Oh, you couldn't get sick of it, but if we talked about this for 4 straight episodes, you'd get sick of it. But you were talking about...
do it.
No, we're not going to do that. Don't worry. You're going to talk about AI, which is taking over the world. Have you seen those Tesla robots? I think I keep mentioning this, but AI is taking over, so...
I thought you were going to talk about Amazon again.
That was a good line, though.
No, so AI in... this one, I've got a good example to talk through about AI in photography, but we're going to talk about it in our week-to-week lives. What I'm going to ask you if you use AI for anything in your week-to-week, but also just, I guess, using my example, the pros and cons of incorporating AI into your practice as a creative, whether that's, as I said, as a videographer, photographer, whatever it might be. I think it's going to be a fun discussion because it is the hot What's that word? Like the buzzword of the moment.
Buzzword is a great. It's just it's taking over the content space, the everyday space, and it's actually a good question. Like, what do you use AI for in the content world? Like, it could be the classic Chat GPT to write captions, to write emails. I think people used to always joke about Chat GPT to like do that stuff, but now they're like, wait, I actually see the value in sort of, if you know exactly what you want to say, but maybe you're not great at crafting it into a sentence or two, literally chuck that in. They'll make it look good or sound good, and it's still kind of in your words, but you're basically just like automating the process and speeding it up. So it's kind of smart.
Yeah, it's where you can help it in your workflow, but there is a fine line between finding the authenticity or maintaining the authenticity of yourself, which we're going to speak about. So we're not going to jump into it too much right now, but
Firstly,
we love this question. So we got this question, as we do, we open up the show with a Q&A. We got this 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago, and it was a bit of a deeper one. So I'm going to just... And actually, it doesn't need to be deep because it could be business-focused or life-focused. But from Andy, thank you, Andy, for this question. What's your 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year goals?
It's a very deep question. Well... It depends which way you take it, because I looked at some of your notes here and you're like, I'm going in with my life.
Well, spoilers.
I'm not going to go into it, but Michael answered a few like...
Do you want me to answer first?
Yes, but I was just going to say my initial thoughts. You can take it as a life way or you can take it in a business way. And my mind went to sort of career-wise, so I don't have very specific answers, but I do have maybe 2 topics that kind of come to mind. But I would love for you to go first.
Well, I'd like you to get a bit more specific for the viewers, because something I've been on you about is sitting on the fence. So if you don't come to this question, if you don't think of more specifics while I'm answering, then I'm going to be disappointed.
Well, if you don't speak a bit better because you're stumbling a bit, no.
Because you're not gonna sit here and be like, in 1 year, I would like to progress as a filmmaker. It's like, well, that's great.
Technically correct,
but let me hit you with this. You tell me that it's not. You can either take it between business and life. Can I just say it's one thing, because it's if you're running your own business, I've aligned them with life because it all matters. So good segue. So 1 year, I think, to be in a position to buy a forever home would be the great 1 year goal for me, and that does relate to work, because it's in order to do that at the start of next year, I'm going to up my salary a bit.
Yes,
and that needs to. That helps with showing whatever the financial people, the mortgage brokers, whatever, to proof of income, that type of thing. So that's my 1 year.
Love
Let
it.
me just flow through it.
Oh no, I'll respond to your
with your 1 year, or just
I'll just more respond to yours. But no, that's a great one. That's obviously a great one. And to clarify, when he says our forever home, that's him and his wife, not myself and him. Even though we have lived together a lot in previous years, so maybe we'll redo it.
No, I don't think so. At least in my forever home. 1 year from now, I'd love to be in a position to be looking for that.
That's great. Next one. It goes 1, 5, 10. I thought it was 1, 3, 5. Let's go
for the wrong years.
No, it's all right. I like long-term planning, and 10 years, that's a great one, actually. 5 years, what have you got?
Yeah, I was just laughing because I wouldn't normally be a 10-year planner. It's quite too far. But
I'm going 30.
5 years, 30-year plan. 5 year plan for myself. I have got a bit generic after I've just had a go at you for this, but I want to keep the momentum and I guess the hunger of what I'm doing right now for 5 years. That might sound like a bit of a cop-out, but it's easy, as we've talked about, it's easy to stay motivated in year one and have big goals. But what I've done this year, I want to maintain for the next 4 years of momentum.
Well, I think you say it's a cop-out answer. I think it's a great answer because it's exactly what we talked about. Like the first year of business,
last week,
you're motivated and energized by it, but are you going to do it in 5 years? Are you going to be the same energy and same motivation in 5 years? So it's a great answer.
Thank you.
Don't talk your answers down. I like that.
No, I just thought you might, I don't know,
laugh at you.
Yeah, something like that.
Number 10. Do you have a specific 10-year goal? I'm asking you like I can't read.
No. Or you told me last week I couldn't read.
For the audience.
You told me last week I couldn't read for some reason. Bit of a swing. What's the word? Drive-by?
Drive-by.
No, 10 years, as I said, like I like long-term goal planning, but I don't think I would have this in my mind. So I did think about it. I think just business-wise, if I'll think about it right now, I'd love to be operating 80% more like a business as opposed to a freelancer. And what I mean by that is you talk about like the split between what I do freelance versus, say, retainer clients, so working with clients on a consistent monthly basis. It's probably about 90% freelance and, say, 10% retainer, which obviously is very skewed towards I'm just operating as a freelancer. But if I were to think about the big 10-year plan of 2Times Creative, I think I love the variety that freelance brings you and the people you work with. I don't want to lose that, but I'd love to be in a position where it's 80, 90%. You've really like honed in on specific clients. You're growing with them. You're developing their content strategy, their purpose, their overall brand. It's not just a one-off shoot. And when I say that, I love it for it to be like we've talked about the brands we want to work with, but the ESPNs of the world. Like I'd love to have
Schnitz.
10-year retainer, like a retainer client with like even something like LSKD popped up on our. I sort of had a shoot with a gym that had LSKD there, something like that, like Nike, like think big, like
of course,
AFL, like AFLW, like something like that to be on a consistent retainer would be unbelievable. So they're sort of the big goals.
So less maybe, well, I'm putting words into your mouth here, but less maybe like week to week, not how am I going to get my money, but week to week, like what's my shoot's going to look like for this week and fortnight, like you're kind of more set in stone with what you're doing. Here's a question for you.
Yes.
And this is one to get a sponsor on board. What does LSKD actually stand for? See, Michael, when I put you on the spot like that.
That was just a recent, it hit me. What is it?
No, I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh,
so
you want to Google it?
So it's like athletic sort of wear, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Let's think about it just for a second here.
It's probably not too relevant.
Long service. No, it's a great question. I might Google that.
Yeah, okay. Take it offline. That was just an example of the type of brands, and I'm not an emphatic LSKD supporter.
No, well, we can be. They're good answers, Michael. Like I said, I don't have specifics, but
tell me what you did. Tell us what you were thinking about.
Let's go here. When I thought about this, I have 3 pillars that I thought of.
Nice.
1, money. No, not really. I was going to
say... Be transparent, though.
I was saying that as a joke, like just give me money in my 1, 5, and 10 years. But our good friend that we've never both talked about, Tom Noski, he said...
good follow, yeah.
Yeah, just a good segue into what he was talking about on the 505 podcast. He was like, you know what? If money is a goal, just be transparent about that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like people are scared to talk about if in 10 years you want your salary to be whatever, or you want this in a bank. You don't have to go into those details, but you can literally just be like, I want to earn more money than I'm on. Or
I think he was saying...
I'll be that specific.
Yeah, so creators, he's found that creators are scared of talking about specifics. So he I think whatever he targets, but he'd just be like, oh, next year I want to make 200K. I want to earn $1 million in 10 years. Like he'll target it. So what do you want to earn in... And I'm kidding.
But that's a great question.
So are you telling me that your 1-year plan was to make more money?
No, that was a joke. But but I mean, in everyone's growth and like bettering your life and your family, I think that's part of it. But that wasn't actually one of my answers. Yeah. I was just hoping for a bit of a giggle.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not really a laughing situation. Anyway, number 2, Michael.
Hang on. Are you hitting with 3 goals or just pillars?
Just 3 pillars of goals. So 1 was money, kind of, not really. 2, I really like what we've done here. So it goes back to what you said on number 5 year.
Yeah.
To maintaining this motivation and consistency with 2Times Creative. Love what you've built. I'm saying you've built. We've both built it, but
I'll take it.
You're the captain of the ship. So I want to be more and more involved with this, whatever that looks like. Who knows?
Who knows? It's 5 years.
5 years is a long time, and 10 years is even longer. So that's 1. Build this empire. So that was 2.
Empire. That's a powerful word.
Empire of a business. Well, that's what we're aiming for here, right?
Yeah.
Exactly right. Number 3. The big word that came to my mind when I thought about goals down the stretch was just challenge myself.
Yeah.
Now I think we talked about this. Just off air, I'll call it, in the kitchen, a few meters away.
We have a pre-game coffee, if you will.
We do actually pipe ourselves up, but I think challenge is the big word over
buzz.
Sorry, no, challenge is the buzzword that I think it's always great to challenge yourself, whether it relates back to what we spoke about last week, as in always continue to push the boundaries in terms of if you've got an idea, just do it, try it, test it out. I always want to keep doing that, no matter how much you laugh at me for projects.
As we discovered last week, it's a strength of yours, a superpower.
It is. I think it is. Side hustles. If you want to try something, just try it. So I always want to keep doing that and just challenging yourself in everyday life, but business ways as well.
So money, 2Times Creative Business, and what was the one you just said?
Just challenge.
And challenge.
The challenger.
Okay, so you've hit us with that. I love it. I love the addition, but what are the 1, 5, 10?
No, I don't really have it.
Oh, so your cop-out answer was
for all
to
three,
build
yeah,
on
yeah.
those 3 pillars.
Pretty much. Okay, well,
he's smart.
So 1 year, 5 year, and 10 year, I constantly want to challenge myself.
Yeah.
Like I think it doesn't mean you have to always push the boundaries every single month.
Yeah.
Like it's actually good to get in a routine and like be productive. But I think you always get to a point where you're just like, you know what? Let's try something new. Let's try something fresh. Let's try something that gives you a bit of energy. So
Yeah. No, I think you've cleverly answered your way around it because it's not where I guess I was a bit more
Direct.
I guess I was a bit more answering the question, whereas you just deflected.
It's a tough question. If anyone at home, if someone says to you, name your 1 year, 5 year, and 10 year goals, if you can, I know you had time to think about it, but if you can be
So
like,
did
you know
you.
what? Yeah, fair enough. True. You had time. I didn't have time. But if anyone at home can actually answer that, all the credit, power to you, because I think it's I could probably do it. Maybe you hold it to me next week.
I think a lot of people can and will, but you're right. It would typically, I would imagine, come from a nice little session of thinking about it, like rather than just
Brainstorming.
Yeah, which again you had last week to do, but I understand.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to spin this into a positive because I'm more live in the moment. Like you don't have to actually plan 10 years down the track because I could be a completely different man in 10 years.
Well, it's a good. You could be. I hope you're not too different because we're all fans of you as you are, Darren. But I think
clip that.
I think clip that. Wait, no time code that.
All 5 of you in the background.
There was a question posed to me on the Sports Grad interview that I mentioned last week about are you a short-term or long-term goal setter? So your answer there reiterates that some people aren't long-term planners. So maybe that's just confirming for yourself. Maybe you didn't know this. Maybe you prefer short-term goals. Do you think you prefer short-term goals?
Well, once you said that, I was kind of like, I actually think I like both. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of contradicting myself here.
And I did say at the start of this that I'm holding him accountable for being a fence sitter, and as you've just seen, you are.
Hey, I've covered some good topics here.
Can I just say these sort of big questions pose the ultimate question of like what is success to you, and I'd like to get deep for a second and just say that I think we're forgetting a fourth pillar, and that's happiness. So
Great call, yeah.
Everyone spends so much effort putting in the grind of hard work, and I want to challenge myself. I want to get better. But life's like that old cliche, life's short. So the reason why the biggest goal with working with myself full time is happiness and freedom to support my family, Elise, future kids, and living the life we want to live. Like at the base of it, that is a goal. I don't care about working with LSKD. I don't care about it. If Two Times Creative is financially supporting me to live a happy, free life, like more freedom on my own time, that's success. That's the goal.
I was going to say that's well worded because it's Thank you. True. Like that's why goals and stuff can constantly shift because you can jot down all these specifics and once you hit them, you might not be happy or it might not fulfill you like you expected it would. So you might go back to me and just be like, well, actually, no, I can't really work in one of my pillars there. But it's so true. Like happiness and enjoyment is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So 1, 5, and 10 years, I just want to be happy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It goes to show there's multiple ways of thinking about things. Like I think there's serious power in doing both. You can have specifics or you can just think free flowing. As long as I'm happy in 10 years, I've won. Exactly. I've won, baby. Mic drop.
That's a perfect way to end it.
Perfect. The show?
No.
Who wants to go first this week? How about I'll go first? You went first.
Oh, just for something different. No, AI is nice because probably people might actually think that we're AI looking at us.
True.
So take it away.
Particularly with my recent haircut going more and more towards yours, that I'll need to steer away from that. AI, folks, it is the buzzword that we were talking about. And I had a great example during the week. So last weekend I went and shot the WNBL.
Yep.
Got a local stadium near us. So when I can, I love to just go down and shoot for myself because it's good for the brain and for the mindset to remind yourself why we do this.
Yeah, Michael, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in really quick. You straight away texted me like, I don't know, maybe it was like halftime. I don't know what time frame it was. Not relevant. But you straight away texted me. It was just like, you know what? I miss shooting this. I miss doing photography for myself.
Yeah.
So
I haven't done it. I haven't shot a game of like photography, paid and unpaid, for a while. And I think that's sort of been the shift in Two Times Creative where it's video first, but I definitely don't want to lose photography.
And people talk about the whole doing stuff for clients, for like money, for retainers, for whatever. Yeah. But you still have a basket over here that you should grab in from, reach in to. occasionally for yourself.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Anyway, so during this basketball game, I got this great shot, and we'll put it up on. So I'll put it up on screen, but I'll show you here, Darren.
Arrogant.
Got this great shot. Well, in the moment, I'm like, yeah, this is one of my faves. So here it is.
You think that's the great shot? Just kidding. It's not a shot.
I was fond of it, but you may notice
this can't be it.
You may notice there's one factor that I wasn't too fond of it. And it's the other photographer running in my shot. And credit to him, I don't know him, but he's been doing a great job with the Southside Flyers. But he's in my shot.
He needs to go. He needs to go.
I put up on my Instagram story, I put up on Threads, which you'll see was the biggest engagement and sort of people being passionate one way or the other. But I used Photoshop Generative Fill to remove the photographer. This is what it looks like from straight out of AI.
It's yeah. I mean, I can see exactly why you do it. Obviously.
Exactly. So, and this is why I wanted to show it. Like, I simply asked, what do people think of using AI in this way? And from the responses, no middle ground, Darren. There's no such thing as a middle ground. There's either people saying, yes, nothing wrong with this, I love it, the shot is so much cleaner, the subject is your main thing, you're not distracted. Or the other people would just be like, this is shocking, it's not real photography, wouldn't do this for an editorial. And I want to say that both those points are very valid. So I needed to clarify with these people that this was shot for me. If this was shot for a client, if it was something like an editorial for like Getty Images, you wouldn't do that, right?
Why and why not?
Because it's not a real photograph. And the main point of this photo, we can zoom in and show on the screen, is it's actually messing with a brand's logo.
But I would argue slightly, but I would still argue that even if it's for editorial or for Getty or whatever, that's a much better image. Like, you can crop it a bit to reduce some of the warped nature of it.
And this is the final edit, so I actually did crop in.
Oh, well, there you go. But that's much better than with like, if you're providing this to a client, that's much better than a dude standing halfway through your frame.
Well, that's why I wanted to get your opinion, because you straight away look at it and be like, of course, that's a big shot.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I was going to ask on the Threads, because it did blow up a bit, but what was the percentage of, like, yes, no, basically, from your memory?
Yeah, so there was 219 comments on Threads, which was great just to have the conversation. And I said to a lot of these people, like, I haven't posted here, I'm not going to get to everyone, but I posted this to create the conversation, because at the end of the day, I wanted to have the conversation to see what people thought. On Threads, I would say majority didn't like it. So I don't know whether that goes to show that people maybe a bit more of an older generation
Old school,
that not struggling to adapt with the times, but that's definitely not. They felt that was like an insult to photography, and my response to that was, I can appreciate that, because at the heart of it, it's not a photograph anymore. It's actually turning into a bit of a digital.
I don't really agree.
It's actually turning into a bit of a digital artwork, because you're doctoring the photo.
But it's very slight. So
it depends what the definition of a photograph is, actually.
Well, I think it's still 100% an original. Like, to me, it's still an original photo. You just edit, like, you just.
But it's not, because you're not documenting exactly you're not capturing exactly what's in front of you, because you're changing that through AI. You're actually removing.
I guess so. I think it's a case by case basis in terms of, because I was reading some of those comments and they're just like, well, this changes everything. Like, any photo, or maybe you just said it to me, like, any photo you look at, you're going to be like, if this becomes the norm, you're going to be like, is that real?
Yeah. And
but it's not like her face is green or something, or she has like.
Well, that's what
it's a very slight thing that doesn't. To me, maybe as long as you're not editing the main focal point, like the main person in shot for this, maybe it's accepted.
Great point there, because a lot of people had the same. No, a lot of people said this is absolutely fine to me, because as long as you're not changing the subject, for this case the athlete, and as long as the photo is about the athlete, they've got no issues with it. So they share that opinion.
It's the background. It's like if the background had a rude sign.
Yeah. So another good point. The thread. Sorry, I'm just remembering this as we go. Someone on the Threads thread. That's where the terminology doesn't work for that platform. They said. They said one way to define what they think is appropriate and what's not appropriate is, this is fine because the subject, you're actually making the shot better. Like, you're moving things around it, so you're making the shot better. But where they'd find there'd be a problem. Where they'd find there'd be the problem is if you used AI to make the crowd look packed to the rafters.
Yeah, but that's just stupid. Yeah.
No, but isn't that a good example? So if you're using AI in a basketball stadium and it's quite a low numbered crowd, and you're using AI to fill the seats, that's a really good example. Rather than just moving someone out of frame, like I have here, two very different things.
Very much. That's probably a good example of the yes and no's of when to use AI for photography or editing, because that is manipulating the actual scene. Because the other one, if you're just removing the cameraman away from it, that's a real photo if you just adjusted your frame or you timed it differently.
Yeah.
But the crowd filling up is not a real time. Okay, it's not a real photo.
And a lot of people actually said on the thread, just take a better shot. I'm like, well, there's someone running in front of me, so sure, that could have been a factor. But a couple of things I wanted to sort of talk about off the back of this. So to wrap up, I guess the pros of this, let's use this example. Better overall image, we both agree with that.
Yep.
Much cleaner, slick imagery. No one can really argue that. The cons of that is you're losing a bit of authenticity for those people that are thinking about type of thing, which I think, again, is totally valid. And it's not proper photography, because I would happily describe that as digital artwork. I know you didn't quite agree, which is a good discussion. But if people want to make that argument, I'd happily say, okay, that's a digital artwork.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Let me give you an example of another industry that I don't think many people think about.
Okay.
Car photographers, and might lean into lifestyle photographers, but car photographers, I want people to know, you've seen, watch people like North Borders, really good car photographer in Melbourne, but all over the world, the amount of stuff they clean up in their image, removing pieces of rubbish from the asphalt, removing lines from, might be really small, paint on the asphalt that they clean up in Photoshop. That happens all the time. The biggest, say, car spec ads where it's this beautiful new Hyundai, I guarantee you there would be Photoshopping there. So what's the difference?
Yes. No, that's a good point. I think my mind automatically goes to, it's a case-by-case thing. Because once again, the car and rubbish example is, to me, if everyone would use the final shot with those slight things AI edited, it's worth it and you can do it. But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question.
Yeah, because I agree, case by case.
It's a case by case, but yeah, I do see what the other people are saying in terms of that's not the real shot. Maybe just move the rubbish yourself and take the better shot. I don't know. It's a funny one, but it's at the end of the day, if you're using it for a magazine, you want it to look all spick and whatever, and the client is going to be happy with that result. I reckon just do it.
Yeah, I agree. And also just be transparent. Don't try to use it and not acknowledge that you're using it.
Yeah.
Sounds simple.
By the way, cleaned up this.
Before or after? Yeah. Which one do you prefer? Your choice. Do your policies allow for this sort of thing?
True. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I reckon I would say, my rule with this that I think about is if it messes with the focal point, don't do it. But if it messes with the background and the exterior, permission granted.
Except for filling seats. You just mean
Yeah, true. If it messes with the overall realistic atmosphere, permission not granted.
It's a hard one. I want to. If you're a photographer and you are watching this and you saw that example, let me know your thoughts, because I had a great discussion on Threads and LinkedIn. Funnily enough, LinkedIn a lot more for it. Threads positive. A lot more against it.
Yeah, maybe leaning towards Threads is more of a social media as opposed to LinkedIn. I'd call it more of a positive networking experience.
Yeah. Yep. Goes to show the platforms. Two quick other points. One thing I found that would be a very big negative as a photographer using AI, the minute you publicly use AI for one of your photos, there will be an impact that people will start to second guess every single photo you take.
Probably. You're probably right.
I got that on one of so I posted 10 photos from the WNBL game, was talking to another photographer, lovely photographer, and she didn't mean it this way at all, but she said, is this photo in the carousel, is this also AI or is that just purely your shot? And I'm you know what? That's fair enough, because I've shown that I'm using it on one. Why are any of my photos real?
Yeah.
Because you sort of put this cloud over you that it's just I could be putting fake stuff or removing stuff out of every single image that I show you, because now that is my brand.
That's a great point. And then that takes away your craft, and you probably feel worse about it because you're no, this is my skill. I did this kind of thing.
So that's a big negative. I wanted to quickly ask you to wrap up this chat, Darren. Ways you use AI in a week-to-week basis, or ways that you think you'd recommend to the audience that would be beneficial to them to use it, that's not going to hinder maybe something like this?
You know what?
You don't use it?
Oh, you want to say what? I don't think I use it at all. I think I've experimented with Photoshop and the Photoshop beta, is that what you call it?
Beta version?
Better.
Yeah, I think so.
Beta version. The whole generative fill. I've used it in terms of more to experiment with what it's capable of, but I don't think I actually use it.
Yeah.
There's like making a magic wand around someone when you cut out a design. Is that AI?
Well,
Probably not. That's because that's been around forever. We're not gonna count that.
what about artless voiceover? Have you used that
know
for
what?
MBL?
Is it Artlist or Epidemic Sound?
I mean, both.
I think Artlist has so they've recently, from my knowledge, upgraded their whole like voiceover type thing. I don't know whether it's been around for a while, but I've gone in there and you like literally, you choose the tone, you choose the accent, you choose the type, as in like, are they hyping up someone? Are they doing like a deep dive documentary about animals? And they're really quite impressive. I don't know if I can use them for MBL stuff, but you literally could, because there are some very like sport orientated ones on that where they can do a perfect voiceover for any edit you want, which is quite amusing. So I reckon I would trial that. And I reckon for like even like podcast intros, you could trial that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very one good example that people could and should look into AI, because as you said, you could very well use it for an ad that you might be paying some John down the street a couple of grand to do it professionally. Like, well, you test it out, see if it saves yourself a few bucks and some stress.
Do you use it, AI, at all?
The only consistent thing I do, well, consistent might be like once a month, but is ChatGPT, but not for like one consistent thing. Like, for example, if I've got a rough content idea, but I want to sort of target more towards like helping a particular audience, I'll literally type in something into ChatGPT and just be like, I don't know, I find myself asking questions like, can you identify who this would be good for? Or even if it's a piece of content that I'd like to make, they can help with like scripts. This is an example that I haven't used, but they can help with like scripts, or they can help with like ideation of concepts.
So it might be more to get motivational education on a topic. Or to like spark a thought in you rather than using that final product.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. No, that's good.
In our business coaching, our coaching that we do, they also recommend it to help with like hooks. So what's an attention-grabbing sentence? This is my video. What would be a way I could frame this? Or
you actually can put just a flat-out full video or like a social clip or something and be like, what's the most attention-grabbing?
I think you can. I think you can actually do that, but just describe what the video is, and they'll help you with a hook.
Because you use ChatGPT to write to our family messages, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Notice bloody very well worded.
I want to say with ChatGPT, I hate it when people don't reword things to make it sound like themselves. So if you are using ChatGPT, just be very cautious of it not sounding like yourself, because I think that's very
I think that's the biggest
detrimental to your brand or personal brand or business.
I think that's why I'd shy away from it, because if, like I've said, like we've talked about I reckon the most important part of a brand is being authentic and being you, because you can't replicate you. We can, but no one else can. So it's kind of like that's the biggest part of your brand. So that's why I'd be almost like scared to use it unless it's like a generic email going out and people know it's a generic one. Maybe it's fine, but it's an interesting one. But I think the whole term of adapt or die might come into it. Like people just use it and you spend a lot more time and energy and get burnt out if you don't use it. And then your competitors using it and they're just like, yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah, like don't fight it because you're so stubborn. Like, find ways if it can help you. And I'd love to hear from anybody out there. If you use it on a week-to-week basis, any sort of AI, let us know what it is, because maybe we'll find something that will get thrown our way that could change our lives.
I was going to say the modern technology these days, when that buzz you get when you kind of come across a new piece of technology that makes your workflow, like whether it's editing or whatever, so much easier. That stuff's actually exciting. So if you use something on a daily basis, whether it's editing, design, whatever, podcast, uploading, any sort of server or app or anything, it'd be really cool to hear about, because you might think it's obvious and people out there might not, and you might be getting a lot of love your way if you come out with something handy.
Yeah, for sure.
Great discussion though.
Hidden secrets all over there. Thank you. Did you know that? Did you know Adobe Premiere are coming out, or they've come out with their beta version of generative fill, but for video?
I have often thought about that has to be the next thing, and I know it kind of exists, but have you seen it?
I haven't used it, but an example would be if you've got a clip, you recorded a clip of someone walking, say, and you just recorded to a certain point, but you need an extra 3 seconds, you can actually extend it, and now AI will try to keep that person walking.
So I think I've seen someone do that. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Very, very interesting. But again, does that mean you're going to classify that videographer as a fraud.
that was so smart how you kept the camera rolling for extra 10 seconds. Like, I did not.
Yeah.
But in saying that, does it really impact anything? It's just using what tools you have available to you.
Yeah, it's smart. Anyway, let us know your thought. It's a good discussion point.
It's just like a gardener using tools in front of them instead of their hands to cut grass. Are they cheating, or are they just using the tools in front of them? I think that's a great little comparison.
I don't mind that analogy. Darren, hit us with your discussion point of the week. We talked about it off the top a bit, but content, quality, or quantity.
Shit, that's a very confusing way of introducing the quality versus quantity chat, because I've seen a lot in my years of scrolling the internet of people talking about this topic of like how much content is too much content. Do you aim to do content that's quality, or do you aim to do content that's of mass quantity? And it's a great chat, and it's a great thought process, and I think it goes down to what your brand is, what it does, your resources, your purpose, all that stuff. But I just find it interesting because it has been in chats we've had at the MBL in recent times that's kind of just like, we pump out a lot of content, especially comparing it to what it was 4 years ago. We pump out a lot of content, and it's just like, what are the pros and cons of both?
Yeah,
and that's what I want to ask you. I want to talk to you about.
Let's go through it.
Yeah, it obviously is dependent, but I just think it's a very interesting one, and I think it's a very easy one to get in your head about.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with this? What sparked the conversation? Like, do you think your brain's more going towards that? The market is so flooded with content that people perhaps might need to start shifting back to quality because we're just seeing too much, or are you a fan of that? Or does it depend on the brand?
I think it depends, but the main thing that sparked this thought was just like, I know, like even you and I, or like MBL, I know, like, you know, as a content creator, when you make a really good piece of content, and then once you execute that piece of content, it's done. You want it to get amplified on social media. You want it to get marketed, promoted properly. And then sometimes you're just like, I don't think it got the love it deserves, whether that's not enough time, like sitting on the feed without something updating it, or just like people are not seeing it for whatever reason. So that was the main motivation. Just like if you produce a really good piece of content that you think is better than the majority of the stuff you do and it doesn't get love, you're like, well, how do we fix that?
Oh, so it's getting lost in the
lost in the feed.
The 10 other posts you're posting around those 3 days. Like
yes.
5 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. So I'm going to quickly rattle off some pros of posting a lot. What would you say is posting a lot, by the way?
No,
I know it's dependent.
Yeah,
but
I'm totally with you. I think what is posting a lot for something like the AFL, the NBL, compared to me sitting at home, like I'll tell you for 2 Times Creative, Instagram, I aim for like, say, it's probably honestly just 2 to 3 posts a week. LinkedIn, 2 posts a week. And TikTok and YouTube probably just follow Instagram. I don't mind if I've got stuff to post and it's 3 or 4 times a week on Instagram for 2 Times Creative. But I definitely don't. I remember at the start of 2 Times Creative, I try to post every day. But I'm not in the camp for someone like us or a small business or personal brand that you need to post every day. In fact, I'm probably more of the opinion in this current state. That'll change in 6 months, as I told you off the top. But it probably does not hinder it, but you just get lost. To your point.
That's the thing. You can either, this is what we'll go through, but you can either post a lot and be consistent, be supposedly rewarded by the algorithm, or you can do that and just annoy your fans.
Yeah.
And be like, well, I don't know what the balance is.
Well, from a big company, so you'd be more closer to this. What is a lot for the NBL? Or we don't need to specifically call it the NBL, but a company like a sporting brand. Like
I think a sporting brand like the NBL, I think it's dependent on what is happening. Like obviously news breaks and that's uncontrollable, and obviously it's game day or you're covering a game. So
peak season.
I'm not going to count game day in this in terms of like how many social clips you post of highlights. But like I'd say we post anywhere from like, I feel like it's like 3 to 6 times a day.
A day?
I reckon
on
it would.
Instagram, we're talking about?
I reckon it would. I might be off. No, I reckon it's pretty...
2 to 6, we'll say.
2 to 6. So supposedly, like I reckon it's obviously dependent on, like we have so many shows, we have so many news, we've like people getting injured, all that stuff. It's dependent, but there's no way we post just once a day or twice a day. So it's very interesting. So that's why my mind is like, one, I know the audience probably doesn't see every single one of them, but that goes back to, is it too much? But does it get flooded enough and then the audience just doesn't see what they want to see?
How do you find the balance?
Like, well, it's a great question. I don't know. I don't know.
That's the answer we're trying to find.
Yeah.
But
so I'm going to quickly
with the pros of posting.
So the pros of posting a lot. Activity. If you're always active, supposedly the algorithm will reward you. You're always in the face of your customers. So people are like, hey, I've got no what's the word? Excuse.
Yeah.
To not see this brand. So I know they're there. I know they exist. My mind will always tinker to like maybe purchasing off them or interacting with them. You're always in the face, which is a good. They have no choice but to see you. And once again, if you're consistent, in theory, the algorithm will reward you. So I think that's the pros.
Can I also... Sorry, finish that.
No, I was going to say, but half of that stuff, not half of it, but the algorithm stuff, I'm not sure. It's kind of like a myth.
Well, maybe it's not, because there is also the argument that what you're posting, say, 2 to 6 times a day on the NBL Instagram, not you, but the team, that's not being shown. What's the stat? Because there's stats around that only get shown to like 15 or 20. Each post only gets shown to like 15 to 30% of your audience or something like that. That's not the right numbers, but there is a low number that I don't know how you prove that. I don't know what's factual. Maybe you need to get your meta friend in again, but it's not.
I think they're in with the clubs too, actually. Anyway.
Are they?
Yeah.
But let's say that, let's use that as truth. If that is only showing to 20% of your audience, that one post, then I could see to throw that into your pros of posting 6 times a day, because it's not actually reaching everyone. Fred from home isn't seeing the 6 posts.
Well, true. If
unless Fred's constantly
just clicking on the NBL account or refreshing as well. Like, if that's the case, then sure, it's good to post that amount of times. But some negatives of that, you might just flat out annoy people.
Yeah.
If you're a smaller business, I would say that probably is more likely. Maybe it depends what the quality of the content is.
Yeah.
So I'll just rattle off a few more negatives, and then you go.
Sorry,
no, that's all right.
Everything you're saying is my mind's gone. It's great.
Oh, sorry. This is pros of posting minimally.
Yeah, which you're saying the cons of posting a lot. Same
Oh,
thing.
sorry. I've skipped I needed to bold that. Sorry. Yes. So the cons of
land the plane. What are we talking about?
Land the plane. So we're posting. We're now going back to the cons of posting a lot. So content gets lost. You annoy your fans, your followers, and then, as I mentioned before, the good content doesn't get the love it deserves. That's the main one, I reckon.
I think that's a very valid point, because particularly, it actually probably doesn't matter what type of brand it is, but if you get known for a lot of, say, shitter posts, your brand
takes a hit.
Yeah, integrity almost might take a hit from probably not so much your current audience, but new audience.
Yes.
Because they won't recognize you as the quality, this is what their brand represents. They'll recognize you as posting 7 memes a day. Like, that might be the case.
Yeah, I mean, your brand could definitely take a hit if that's the outcome of what you're doing day to day or week to week.
Yeah, it is. I've actually got a good example for this, Darren. So when I first started at Carlton in the first year or two, there was another video producer, Steve. He told me that one of his friends was a diehard big Carlton fan, but they unfollowed the Carlton account because they thought they posted too much crap. They just weren't interested in the amount of stuff they posted and just thought it was flooding their timeline.
Perfect example.
So it's very, I will say, for a big following, big brand like the NBL, the Carlton Football Club, it would be so difficult, because what are you going to change your whole strategy because of one person? Maybe you're gaining 5 for those one people dropping off. You'd really need, that's why they've got big teams internally. You'd really need people to dive into that.
Well, I think a big thing when I thought about this is you kind of have a responsibility as a league to cover this news and this stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're not covering it, to me, you're not really doing your job that well. So if you're like, no, I'm limiting myself to 3 posts a day, and you just had a massive news day, and you're not posting on something you should make your fans aware of or giving love to some milestone, to me, you're not really doing your job and responsibility as a league. So that's where it becomes tricky.
I don't want to give you my final thoughts on before you hit the last few points, but I do have my overall opinion on this is, if you've got something to post that's hitting your purpose. So if you've got things to post that's going back to your values and your purpose of what you're trying to do with your social posts, then do as many as you want. But if you are thinking we need to hit 3 posts a day, and you're forcing anything that you start to force content that's not going to provide your audience value or purpose, then that's the decision. So if you've got stuff to post it. If you're trying to force it, don't.
If you're forcing it to hit metrics or whatever, and it's not quality content, don't do it. But if you can literally post 6 times a day and your content's great, the interactions are great, people are literally seeing value in it, go for it.
I was going to say, this is so...
Go for 10.
This is so... Go for 15 a day. But case by case is so important as well, because maybe your job is to raise a certain Instagram following to 10K, and you've... Well, 10, 20K, whatever it is, and you found that it helps posting by forcing stuff. You could make an argument to me that I'm going to force.
True.
If that's your job and purpose.
Exactly right. I think it's fascinating. I'm going to jump into posting minimally. That's the headline. Pros.
So this is posting less and it's more quality.
Posting less. Maybe that's once a day. Maybe it's once a week. Probably not advised once a week. I don't know, but it could be.
No, it could be.
Who knows?
Pros of this.
Thought out content. In theory, it's more thought out and therefore the quality goes like this.
The value goes like this, probably.
Yes, quality and value.
Yeah.
Reaches the roof.
Could have one shit hot video a week that achieves everything you're trying to do as a business, and people love it. It's popping off. It's yeah. You get it?
Yeah, I get it. I wrote it. No, I'm kidding. I didn't write what he was saying then. But no, this is a sort of a funny one. But people love mystery. If you don't post that much, and once you do post, people are like, I feel like it impacts more.
Yeah,
like it's more. True. It's more of a big deal when you post. It's like when big YouTubers, I think, like Peter McKinnon. I don't know how many. The videos he releases a month or a week, but when he does post, people are like, not really like that. I'm not like that, but I think it's like, hey, that's cool. He's released another video, so I'll go look at it, and it has to be good because he's taken time with it. Similar effect to that. Do I have any more before Michael jumps in?
No, I just want to agree with it. I think
I'd say sorry. I was leading my final point.
Stuff the conversation.
I think more enjoyment is had potentially if you post less.
Yeah. Yep. I can't argue that one.
Go for it.
Your point before about the mystery or people posting every so often, I think is actually a great point because sometimes you think, I love following this person because they barely post or they'll post very little. But when you post, when they post, I want to see that because I know it's going to be good.
But then in saying that, like this is why it's so hard because if you convince me fully, then it's like, yeah, well, okay, I'll probably post less. But then it's like, the followers might not see you. The algorithm probably might not reward you. You just don't know. Like you literally don't know. If your sole aim is to like, you have to build an audience, even if it's not about the engagement and all that. You're gonna have to make a living. Then it makes sense to do whatever the algorithm kind of rewards.
But that's why you need to spend time identifying your purpose. Our favorite word, purpose. Identifying your audience, your purpose, and just your overall business plan and concept. Like what is your social media there to do? Like. For us, it's the show. Instagram is like a form of our website of our portfolio showing us. But then there's also growing people that growing our following community of people that care about the creative side of things and showcasing what actually goes into creating videos and photos and showing us as it's a combined personal brand. You've just got to know what your purpose is.
It's a great word for this whole thing. It leads me nicely into the cons of posting less.
Yes.
Stunted growth. The algorithm may not reward you, as I said. And then your following and potential clients don't see enough of you, so you become forgetful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is a main one.
I think that I couldn't agree with that more. The people that are seen more often get more work for cases like someone like myself in that sort of industry. But you can't argue that sometimes people aren't hiring their best. They're just hiring the person that's seen the most.
Yeah. It goes back to, I was reading something the other day that the loudest person is the one that gets hired, or the loudest person is the one that gets promoted. Which it shouldn't be the way it is. In a lot of, it doesn't mean they're the smartest or the best for the job. It just means they're the loudest. And it goes back to another saying that I think is great for life and careers is just like out of sight, out of mind. If people can't see you or hear you, you're probably not going to get thought of. As annoying as that is for introverted people, like myself, even though we're getting better at this type of stuff.
Yep.
But so often you probably just get forgotten about because you're the quiet man in the corner.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In saying that, I think people are smart enough these days to also recognize your talents if you are a bit quiet. It doesn't mean you have to be loud and annoying and whatever.
I think the loudness factor is sort of marketing at its bulk. Like if you put yourself out there and you know how to show up and show yourself, then you're going to get rewards from it. But I too do agree because I don't think people should try to change who they are as the extroverted person, loudest person in the room. If that's not who you are, it's just about finding ways to do it. Maybe you like writing and you can just try to get a bit uncomfortable and post a photo of you when you write stuff. Like there's ways of showing up without.
That's a great point because I was going to say you can still find your way of being loud, and that might be never having a conversation in a day, but then the one conversation you do have a week, you make that a great conversation, and that person remembers you, and that person toots your horn.
It's
and
like
all
that
stuff.
Posting one post a week or 1 month.
Yeah, or what you said, writing, or like anything. Like you probably can find a way to be loud. It doesn't mean you have to be verbally loud.
So what are your final thoughts to wrap this up? We'll go big sporting brand, and then someone like me or a personal brand. Like, do you think I'll go first? A big sporting brand. what's your final opinions on quality versus quality? Quality versus quantity.
Well, you got that right. No, I think after all, it's actually very hard to differentiate what you should do.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a case by case. I will say, like, the whole being seen enough is very important. Like, you have to be seen, kind of thing. I think that's very important. But we're human. We question what we do, and sometimes that is questioning if we're annoying our audience rather than benefiting them.
Yeah.
So my final thoughts is I don't really know. I can give you 3 pillars because I love pillars today.
I thought we both agreed on something to wrap it up nicely, that if there's something to post it. If there's nothing, if you're forcing it, don't. That would be, to me, how I'd wrap up a big brand. If you're doing your purpose, doesn't matter how many times you're doing that a day, just do it. If you're forcing it, then don't do it. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think the 3 things that I'd go back to in terms of like deciding...
They're the same pillars from the start.
They're not the same pillars, but if to decide how much you should post is what you said, purpose, resources, like if you've got enough people or it's just you, and just like... I reckon chuck enjoyment in there.
Yeah.
Like if you're just burning yourself out and you want to hit 10 posts a day, I'd advise not to.
Yeah. So you don't think there's anything wrong if you've got things to post? Your last question, 2 to 5 times a day if you're a big brand.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And personal brand, or someone like us that we've got 703 followers, I think is our latest thing. What would you advise on post per week? Or maybe it's more of a question for me, but what would you advise?
I think just staying active is the biggest key. I know that's very broad, and whatever you're going to say, I'm sitting on the fence. But I think staying active and consistent, whether that's once a day or once every 2 days, as long as your audience knows what to expect and they're your audience for a reason, it's fine.
How many times would you like to see a post from 2 Times Creative?
Once a day. I think like stay active is good.
Really?
If you have enough.
Falling behind.
But in saying that, that goes back to like why are you doing it, and if you have enough, are you forcing it? Are you like, I'm gonna film myself eating breakfast today, which doesn't go into our brand because I'm being active? Probably don't do that. And I know you have been working on that.
No, great answer, because my answer to that is yes, I would be forcing it to get a daily post.
Great.
And so that's why I said, so right now I probably aim for 2 to 3 posts a week on Instagram.
But that's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly. Find your point. Find your point that is working for you.
Exactly. I think that's the best message that you've ever said.
If you've got any thoughts on this, I want to hear from you. Quality versus quantity. Maybe you've got experience across like working for a bigger company now. You just work for a smaller one. There's probably no one answer though, and that's the beauty of it. I'd just love to hear your example and your thoughts if you are listening to this and you've had experiences or thoughts yourself.
And the whole AI thing as well. I would personally love to find another piece of technology or workflow method that speeds it up or makes our lives easy. Like that stuff is actually really quite interesting and fun to find.
Yeah, and it does change when you find it. Like, how have I not been using this?
Literally
changes your world.
Enjoyment factor up. Take us home, Michael.
Episode 10 is done and dusted. How good's that? We're up to double digits. When we hit triple digits, I think we'll look back on this and probably be like, maybe you'll have like a mohawk, I'll have a big grey beard or something. Like we would have been gone through the trenches of this. Anyway, thank you for tuning into episode 10. We hope you got something out of it. I actually think between the question from Andy to hit us to start the show, to hit us off the top, that was a great discussion point, because it is always good to think about what you're going towards, whether you're a short-term or long-term planner.
Yeah.
AI and content, and then quality versus quantity. 3 great main
cues.
3 great topics to discuss. So thank you for tuning in. Darren, you've been great as always, and I appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.